I wanted to say that you were right about everything.
The Devil Wears Prada is a great movie with a bad lesson. Let's talk about it. Roll the theme song, Aaron.
Black independent, strongest in women. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay now. I know that I'm worth it, so make sure to listen. It's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay, it's Olay.
Would y'all believe that I watched The Devil Wears Prada for the first time in the year of our Lord? I know. And I love Meryl Streep and I love Anne Hathaway, mind you. Them's two very top tier white ladies. They up there on my Mount Rushmore of fave talented white women who stay out the way with Drew Barrymore, Kathy Bates, and Hilary Duff. I'm actually about to throw rent money at my girl Hillary in a minute to go see her on tour because my bitch is making a comeback and this is what dreams are made of, you hear me? But seriously, I love Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep. But despite the hype, The Devil Wears Prada just never called to me to watch it. But I finally decided to watch it this past weekend. And now that I have, I am here 20 whole ass years after the movie's release to get justice for ambitious women. Because the ending of that movie, the final takeaway, had us all fucked up.
I wanted to say that you were right about everything.
Absolutely not.
By the time the movie ended, I was on my feet yelling in the living room because I know they lying. Which is not necessarily a criticism of the movie or its writers, because I doubt that the movie would have spawned the kind of discourse that would have people in a chokehold for 2 decades had it not given us every reason to question Andy, her decision making, her fuck ass piece of shit boyfriend, and what the lesson of the movie should have been had it not ended the way it did. Which is why The Devil Wears Prada is a great movie with a bad lesson. The plot for The Devil Wears Prada is simple. An aspiring journalist fresh out of college named Andy gets a job as the second personal assistant to Miranda Priestley, who is the editor of Runway magazine. Runway magazine is basically this movie's Vogue magazine, and Miranda Priestley is a big ass deal in the fashion world. Initially, Andy is unqualified, unprepared, and unappreciative of the job. Eventually, though, her colleague Nigel gets through to her that she needs to take advantage of the opportunity and put her back into it. So that's exactly what our girl does. Instead of showing up to the job looking like a Joneser, our girl starts dressing the part and rising to every challenge Miranda presented her with. And hear me good. The second Andy actually started excelling at the job, her hating ass boyfriend starts trying to vilify her, her boss, and the job because Andy dared to give a about her job performance and actually make the most of the opportunity she stumbled into. This man treats this woman finally deciding to comb her fucking hair and dress like she knows she working in the damn fashion industry as tantamount to her materially changing who she is for the worse.
What can I do anything right?
He treats her doing her job, which is being the right hand to the editor of a massive magazine, as a personal inconvenience to him, as her just up and doing some bullshit. His attitude towards her investment in her job would have been ridiculous in this circumstance too, but you would have swear this was an unpaid internship and this man was being forced to pay all the bills by his lonesome the way he was carrying on.
You hate Runway and Miranda and you think fashion is stupid. You've made that clear.
Andy, I make port wine reductions all day. I'm not exactly in the Peace Corps. You know, I wouldn't care if you were out there pole dancing all night, as long as you did it with a little integrity.
Child. And then on Nate's birthday, Andy ended up having to attend a work event with Miranda. As an aspiring journalist, many of the people who could open the doors Andy hopes to walk through were at this event. And Andy had the opportunity to meet them because a man named Christian, we'll talk about him later, was going to introduce her. But instead of capitalizing on the opportunity she's been working for, she leaves the event early to try to make it to her boyfriend's birthday festivities. And the sacrifice was in vain because she didn't make it in time and he wasn't trying to hand that in know-how because he is a man who don't respect her job on a regular day, let alone his birthday.
Don't worry about it. And go to bed.
Can we at least talk about this?
You look really pretty.
Oh, what? You gonna cry?
No?
No, go ahead, cry. Let me see you. Let me see you cry.
Then, at another event, Nate and Andy's friend, your girl from Rent, see Christian flirting with Andy. And the friend doesn't ask her what was that about, who that man was, or anything normal like that. Instead, she immediately fucking lays into Andy and starts talking to her like her investing in her job and her appearance and being late to this nigga's birthday one time is conclusive proof that Andy's an ain't shit ass bitch and an ain't shit ass girlfriend and Nate was right about everything, because it seems like the only people in Andy's life appear to be Nate and think Nate's supposed to be her only priority.
For the last 16 years, I've known everything about that Andy. But this person, this glamazon who skulks around in corners with some random hot fashion guy, I don't get her.
So by the time Miranda decides to take Andy with her to Paris for Fashion Week, instead of her first and far more deserving and qualified assistant Emily, Andy and Nate are broken up because her boyfriend is an op who didn't have a supportive bone in his op-ass body. And it's while Andy's in Paris when they're broken up that she finally sleeps with Christian. And speaking of sleep, let's talk about this video's sponsor, the makers of my phenomenal mattress, Helix Sleep. Because not only are they the reason you're getting this video, I am genuinely in love with my Helix mattress and I will never get tired of telling y'all. Again, y'all know my boobs are bigger than my head, which means my back hurts. And that's on top of the fact that your girl got scoliosis. My spine twists right up, so I need a bed that bends to my needs. You see what I did there? Seriously, let me make sure y'all understand how and why I now have the perfect bed. Helix has a sleep quiz that you can take where you can answer questions based on your sleeping practices, whether you prefer to sleep on your side, your back, or run hard at night, whether or not you prefer soft or firm beds. And then the quiz tells you exactly which Helix bed is your perfect fit. And for me and mine, that was the Helix Moonlight Luxe bed with the Glacio Tex cooling cover. Ah, that shit sound luxurious, hey? Cause it is. Helix doesn't just make luxury beds, they make the most luxurious ass beds, which is why their Helix Midnight Luxe bed has been ranked as the best overall mattress by Forbes and Wired, which is why Helix is so confident in their beds that they offer a lifetime warranty and they let you test out the beds for 120 nights to make sure it's just right for you. On top of that, Helix is offering my viewers the opportunity to take advantage of their 27% off store-wide sale for President's Day. You heard me. That's 27% off store-wide. Just go to helixsleep.com/illuminatipop. Thank you for sponsoring this video, Helix. Now back to it. So Andy and Christian finally sleep together, but she kicks him to the curb the following morning when he lets it slip to her that Miranda is about to be replaced by a younger and less costly woman. And let me just say this. I knew that they were gonna have Christian do something that they could use to vilify him in order to justify Andy leaving him and getting back together with Nate. I thought they were gonna have him do something like push himself on her, try to take advantage of her. But what actually happened didn't justify Andy cussing him out and storming out at all, if you ask me. I'm sorry, shoot me with your big gun. It's not like he knew Andy was gonna lose her job and didn't tell her until after they slept together. That would have been a definite curse of crime. But all this man did was not tell her that her boss, whom he'd made it clear was a bitch he didn't like the entire movie, was gonna get fired. Why would he ever assume her overworked assistant would be personally sick about such a thing? And again, he told her the second they and established that they was on that kind of level. It wasn't given slime ball the way they intended, but whatever. This movie didn't need Andy to be with him or Nate. Those men were irrelevant, so it's fine. I don't care. Plus, one could make the argument that if Miranda get fired, certainly her assistants are out of her job, so I hear her, I feel her. So Andy storms out of Christian's room so she could try to warn Miranda. But Miranda already knew what The Rock was cooking and had already made moves to save her job by getting the higher-ups to give the woman they'd intended to replace her with the job she'd intended to recommend her right hand Nigel for. This is obviously devastating to Nigel, and Andy by proxy because she cares about Nigel. But Nigel immediately accepts it and assures himself that Miranda will pay him back later, whilst Andy decides to confront Miranda, who explained how she saved her job at Nigel's expense. Upon hearing this, Andy told Miranda that she couldn't have done what Miranda did to Nigel, at which point Miranda informs her, "Baby girl, you already did that when you came to Paris in Emily's place."
Oh no, you chose. You chose to get ahead. You want this life? Those choices aren't necessary.
But what if this isn't what I want? I mean, what if I don't want to live the way you live?
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Andrea. Everybody wants this.
This realization prompts Andy to quit her job and run to her ass boyfriend to tell this man he was right about everything. Andy goes goes to Nate, a man who, by the way, just flew to Boston to interview for his dream job without consulting with her, despite having had a whole ass attitude when she dared to go the extra mile for her job or agree to go to Paris for work with her boss without running it by him. That's what she run to say he was right about everything. He then throws out that she could come with him to Boston so he could do his dream job, and she's all for it.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
This the same can't stomach this woman working hard at her job right there in the city. That's a big inconvenience to him, but ain't no problem for her and him to move where he needs to be for his dream job. Then she interviews for some rinky-dinky newspaper, gets the job, and we see she and Miranda smile at each other from the distance. Then the movie ends, having worked my last nerve. So let's start here in explaining why. This right here, Nate, wasn't right about shit. The only crime Andy ever committed was showing up to the initial job interview unprepared and unaware of the opportunity in front of her. Then showing up to the job itself ungrateful and unwilling to put her best foot forward because she inexplicably thought she was too good for a job, paying her a New York City livable wage that thousands of more qualified women would kill for, despite having no job experience, and no other job opportunities of any kind. Because she had the same kind of stupid ass mentality her dumbass boyfriend had at the beginning of the movie. And that mentality had them believing that fashion or giving a about your parents was beneath them. Which is why I loved how Miranda used Andy's cerulean sweater to explain to her that while she thinks what they do is shallow, irrelevant, and of no bearing in her universe, the decisions they make in that room is how a bargain basement cerulean sweater ended up on her back.
Oh, okay. I see. You think this has nothing to do with you. You go to your closet and you select, I don't know, that lumpy blue sweater, for instance, because you're trying to tell the world that you take yourself too seriously to care about what you put on your back. But what you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue. It's not turquoise. It's not lapis. It's actually cerulean. You're also blithely unaware of the fact that in 2002, Oscar de la Renta did a collection of cerulean gowns. And then I think it was Yves Saint Laurent, wasn't it, who showed cerulean military jackets? I think we need a jacket here. And then cerulean quickly showed up in the collections of 8 different designers. And then it filtered down through the department stores and then trickled on down into some tragic casual corner where you no doubt fished it out of some clearance bin. However, that blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Miranda's logic for why fashion matters more than you think is so similar to one of the reasons I developed for why I wanted to be a lawyer. And I phrase it that way because I always knew I was going to be a lawyer, since my Grammy told me I was going to be a lawyer when I was a little girl. But when I was in college, I really fleshed out why I knew law was for me. And part of that reason was realizing just how much the law controlled everything around us, right down to whether there were windows in our room or when we could cross the street. In stark contrast to the world we're living in now, back when I was having this revelation as a freshman in college, folks still used to try to avoid talking about politics and the law. It wasn't polite conversation. But when I really understood how much the law was constantly interacting with us, whether we acknowledged it or not, I thought that it was important for me to interact with the law. And I say all that to say, Miranda would have had me working my ass off after reading me down about that cerulean sweater. So it was no surprise to me that Andy decided to lock the in after that. It changed the whole mindset, and it rightfully should have. Who Andy is at the beginning of the movie needed to evolve. But unfortunately, wherever there is a young woman about to tap into her potential, there is a man nearby who hates to see it. I knew Nate was an op the moment she said she got a job at a fashion magazine, and this man basically told her they must see NCO think she dressed. This man knew and believed that this gal is look stink and that she ain't qualified for this job. And that's how he wanted her to stay. The moment she starts rising to the occasion and glowing up, it's a problem for him because he feels threatened. He out here talking about, oh, I liked how you was before. You told her she looked stink, that she's dressed stink at the beginning of the movie. Now it's I liked you the way you was. He does not feel comfortable with her at her best. So he manipulates her into thinking that simply evolving or changing in any way is a bad thing. Like this young 20-something-year-old gal does not have the freedom to change her style and commit to her job for the doors that it might open for her. And I should be clear that even if Andy were not aspiring for something more, even if this were not a stepping stone, there would be nothing wrong with her investing and putting her back into a job simply because it's her job. It didn't have to be a stepping stone to something greater to justify her simply deciding to take pride in her appearance and her work. She's allowed to evolve past her original position that she was above the job or fashion. Which is why, hear me and hear me good when I say, Andy not only should have stayed and met the people she needed to meet at that event that she left for his birthday, a real but I encouraged her to do so. That man's birthday should not have been Andy's #1 priority. And having to work that night should not have and does not make that girl a villain or a bitch who's losing herself in work or any of the other ass projections she was getting from her boyfriend and their ass mutual friends. Y'all got to shoot me with your big gun here, cause fuck that young man's birthday.
No. He's got a point.
And to the overall, you were right about everything. Again, no the he was not. Miranda Priestly did nothing wrong. Y'all hear me? Put it on the screen, Aaron. Miranda Priestly did nothing wrong. Well, maybe not nothing wrong. She ain't had to call our girl a fat disappointment at one time, but it was the fashion industry in the early 2000s. Y'all get the point. Miranda was not the villain. I have seen Miranda Priestly framed as a villain, an antagonist, a narcissist, a perfectionist, and so much more. But what I think Miranda was just a powerful woman demonstrating exactly what is required of a woman to obtain and maintain that kind of power. And the kind of unnecessary scrutiny that it comes with and how people try to project something onto your moral character that they wouldn't do to anybody else. Miranda is not a perfectionist or a workaholic because she wants to be. It's what she has to be to maintain her position. And the events of the movie illustrate that. Because despite Miranda eating, sleeping, and breathing, doing her job to perfection, you saw how quickly niggas was looking to replace her with a younger, newer model. That's reality. And it's that reality that Miranda was preparing her assistants for. Which is why when Andy f***ed up by not following the instructions on how to deliver the book to Miranda's house, Miranda made that bitch find her an unreleased manuscript for the next Harry Potter book or be fired. And it's also why, despite Emily working her mother ass off and being fully committed to the job, the moment she started slipping just a little bit, Miranda decided to take Andy with her to Paris Fashion Week instead of Emily. And let's be clear, was that some cold shit? Absolutely. Did I feel for Emily? Hell yeah. Did I want justice for my bitch Emily? Hell yeah. Would I have called Miranda and Andy everything but a child of God if I were Emily? I'd be slandering them to this day. But Miranda was not punishing Emily for arbitrary, cold-blooded sake. She was teaching her a hard lesson about the way that industry actually functions and what's required to thrive in it. Fair or not, if you slip, somebody is waiting to take your spot. And she was trying to teach Andy the same lesson when she told her to take the opportunity without apology or worrying about Emily, or it would send the message she didn't want it bad enough. Do y'all think Emily would have hesitated if the roles were reversed? Emily didn't even think Andy bum ass had any business working there in the first place. She could not stand Andy ass, and she wasn't wrong to. And Andy wasn't wrong to take advantage of the opportunity that Miranda presented her with. And it's easy to look at Miranda Priestly and think, oh, well, she could break the cycle in XYZ. The reality is, while Miranda might be in a position of power, she does not possess the kind of power that will turn the entire system on its head. She can't change how it functions. So you see that despite her resume of perfection and the authority she commands, you see how quickly they were ready to get rid of her. So what would anybody gain by Miranda trying to take it easy on Emily and Andy and hold them to a lower standard than what she or anybody else that plans to thrive in that industry is held to? The only reason these workplace realities, like taking advantage of promotions and opportunities that come your way regardless of what your coworkers are doing, even get presented as things that even might have any bearing on their character, is because they're women. Which brings me back to Nigel. You know how when you're on a plane, the flight attendant instructs you that in the event of an emergency, you need to first adjust your own oxygen mask before you can help the person next to you? Let me ask y'all something. What makes y'all feel like Miranda would have been able to guarantee that job to Nigel if she had sat back and let them fire her? Like, yes, poor Nigel, he was really looking forward to getting that job, but the outcome was what it means to be between a rock and a hard place. Miranda wanted to give him the job, but wanted to take hers, so she had no choice but to adjust her oxygen mask first before she could help Nigel, which Nigel deep down immediately understood, which is why he painfully said that he knew Miranda would pay him back later. But what Nigel could have done, and probably should have done, was take what he's learned from working for Miranda, the connections he's made, the clout the job has afforded him, and go move the fuck on to greener pastures on his own terms. Nigel could have helped himself with what Miranda has already equipped him with, instead of waiting on Miranda to make it happen for him. It's only his fault that he's waiting 15 years for Miranda to make it shake for him. I think Emily, Nigel, and Andy are all Miranda's students who all haven't quite understood what she's trying to teach them, but Andy was the closest to getting it. Nigel and Emily both understood the significance of the opportunity to work for Miranda, and they were both putting their back into it. And eventually Andy comes to understand that too. But by the end of the movie, Andy is the only one who's realized that it's on them to make their next big opportunity happen, not Miranda. Which is why Andy quitting her job working for Miranda to pursue her real dream to be a journalist after seeing Nigel resign to just keep waiting indefinitely for Miranda to hand him his dreams would have been a perfect ending by itself. That ending would have confirmed that Miranda was trying to teach her proteges a lesson, and Andy deciding to self-actualize and go after what she really wanted proved that she learned the lesson, and Miranda was proud. Thus her telling Andy's future employers to hire her and smiling proudly at Andy in the distance after she gets the job. And it would have shown that Andy understood and appreciated that Miranda had taught her that lesson, thus her smiling fondly at Miranda in the end. But they decided to pollute that perfect ending with Andy telling Nate he was right about everything, when in fact he wasn't right about shit. Andy telling Miranda she couldn't do what she did to Nigel, quitting when Miranda told her that she could and she had done it to Emily, then telling Nate he was right about everything and giving Emily clothes as a sort of apology for going with Miranda to Fashion Week in her place is a devolution. It's Andy saying she's now rejoined her boyfriend's negative assessment of Miranda, the job, her investment in her job, and her simply taking advantage of an opportunity her boss presented to her. Her saying he's right about everything would essentially put her back in the same place mentality-wise as at the beginning of the movie. It also makes the final decision and lesson of the movie kind of turn on a question of Miranda's morality, what Andy thinks of her character and her fear of being the kind of person she is, which, like I said, would never be a topic of conversation if these were not women. Because what was Miranda's great big crime? Not sitting back and losing her job so another could maybe get a promotion? Please be for real. Andy telling Nate he was right about everything says to us that Andy has decided that what she learned and how she'd evolved while doing the job was irrelevant, not worth the investment she made, that Nate was right to be critical of her, who she was becoming. And he had the right to be critical of her for what? Committing to her job? Combing her hair? Matching her clothes? Going to her work events? Getting opportunities her co-workers wanted? Why the would Nate care about Emily and whether or not Emily wanted to go to Fashion Week? Emily don't even like Andy. Was a crime having to work on his birthday? Andy deciding that Nate was right about everything directly undermined any logical explanation for why the movie would end with Miranda and Andy both appearing to respect and feel fondly about the other. Because it directly contradicts the idea that Andy understood what Miranda was trying to teach her or appreciated how Miranda and the job had impacted her life. It felt to me that the writers tried to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted her to have everything, to get back together with a piece of shit boyfriend and have love, the job she really wanted, and to still have a connection with Miranda. But the way they tried to save her relationship with Nate undermined the connection between her and Miranda because it suggested she didn't with Miranda and no longer believed that working for her and investing in that job had been worth it, which made it unclear what the movie intended our final takeaway, the final lesson, to be. That's why The Devil Wears Prada was a great movie, but it decided to end on the wrong lesson. If you enjoyed this video, it is your lucky day because I have a million other bangers where this one came from. Watch the Pretty Woman video being recommended to you now. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Patreon where you can get all the uncensored versions of these videos.